Hello. It's a rainy but springtime Monday morning here in Bristol, and I was just doing my morning practice. Um, so my morning practices are generally more to do with setting me up for the day. So they're not really part of my scheduled overall training plan for myself or my routines for myself. Unfortunately for me, those have to go sort of later in the day because I haven't got as much time in the morning, and I like space and time in which to do those practices so I can be very present with them. That said, my morning practice, whatever it looks like, and today it was an installment of Triple Shot from GMB. It's for me to feel well set up and ready for the day. And even if that practice is hard or strenuous, or at moments it feels like tricky in any way, it still always sets me up for the day. So I persevere even if it's not feeling right for whatever reason, as long as it's not pain or discomfort or fatigue. And while I was doing the practice today, I thought I would check in and do a little pep talk about there is only now, about how there is only this practice now. So I don't always make time for something structured and delineated. Sometimes I'll do a couple of sun salutations before my client turns up. Sometimes I'll stick the tunes on and dance around, maybe do a little bit of handstand training or whatever skill training I'm working on. It varies. Sometimes my being active in the morning means waiting until the first client and doing the warm-up with them, which is a nice thing to do anyway, but it's not time to myself with me because I'm actively teaching in that moment. And today I was particularly disciplined about it because I have had a tough mental health week. And I wanted to talk about this quite openly because actually you don't have to have had a tough mental health week or anxiety or depression or whatever you deal with in order to make this a priority. But most of us in adult life are managing some kind of stress, and we savor the times when we're not. But it's when we're managing that stuff that good habits tend to go out the window, the things that help tend to get lost. Now I am fortunate because I have the space in my life to do this quite easily. That said, I also, the things that give me that space means that there are certain things that I don't have, that other people do, that most people do. So, it's not a case of who it's easier for one person or the next. We only know our own lives. And it's just very, very easy to make excuses for not doing the things that will help you. And also, it's very, very easy, and this is what I wanted to talk about, to undervalue things that are simple and clear your mind and feel good to do. Now, as I mentioned, I did Triple Shot today. I find actually I enjoy Triple Shot because it contains a lot of the aspects of the movement that I train in my actual programs. Not all of them, but many of them. And so it tends to contribute to my existing programs. But even if it didn't, I would still like it. The reason is that Triple Shot is a reminder that in 15 minutes, I can put in place lots of active self-care. One, adapting exercises to my ability to do them. So Triple Shot it's high conditioning, it is very active, and some of those movements can be quite advanced just in their normal method of use. So I have to use my brain and be reasonable with myself about what is the movement that we're going to do. That said, very few of the movements are complex in themselves. Some of them are. It depends on who you are. For me, I'm quite used to those movements, so they're not physically complex, but some days the complexity will baffle me, and that will tell me something about where I'm starting my day. So, for example, crab toe taps, particularly enjoyed them today. But, you know, the second or third rep tended to get a bit wobbly. And it was because the first one would go well and my mind would wander off. So I had to bring myself back to it and dial it back. And I realized that I was enjoying a smaller version of the movement today rather than a bigger one, because I was savoring the ability to control that movement and do less of it. There are certain jumps that I just can't do. And so I just needed to go through the motions of a step rather than a jump. And that was okay, because the purpose of the jumps, they have many purposes, but the purpose is not to break your knees. So, you know, or to feel bad about them. They raise your heart rate, they help you with impact. I was still getting some jump, but not in the hardest section of the movement for me. Not mentally challenging, but for some, mentally challenging if you insist on always being the best at the hardest thing that you do and immediately without any journey, which is unrealistic, and you wouldn't expect that of yourself if you were learning any other kind of skill. And also with any other kind of skill, you would accept that some days you're maybe not on your game, and that doesn't mean that you're not good, full stop. Some of the attitudes around movement, I think, have closed it up in a way that makes it less helpful. So we know, for example, that let's say ice cream, but you can switch out ice cream for anything. Ice cream is a wonderful thing. I don't want ice cream for breakfast. Maybe you do, but you wouldn't want to have ice cream for breakfast, and you wouldn't want it every day. But you might have a version of ice cream, i.e. milk, or a milk substitute, or yogurt. So does that mean that because ice cream is such a wonderful and luxurious thing, that the components of ice cream, the milk, the eggs, the cream, does that mean that those components are less valuable because they're not ice cream? No, right? So when you come to your mat, it behooves you to think about the components of the movement and remember that there is only today, now. Yesterday is gone, it's over. Tomorrow, who knows what tomorrow holds? I mean, I know it's cheesy, but it is a fact. And acting like it's cheesy is failing to recognize that we only have now. There's only what's happening on the mat now. There's no yesterday, there's no tomorrow. So it is your job, one and only job. Priority is a one thing. Your priority is to savor, enjoy, and learn how to adapt the practice that you're doing right now in this moment. And for some of us, it's to learn to come to the mat at all, or to try to, and celebrate that moment. I've said this many times to my clients who deal with anxiety and depression, and everybody has something at some point. Simply the act of moving in the direction of doing something active. So if you go to a class, simply the act of putting your shoes on, then the act of opening the door and stepping out of the door, maybe walking down the street, those are all wins. Break them down into their component parts. Even if you turn up at the gym, at the class, at the session, say, I'm sorry, say to someone or to yourself, I'm sorry, I can't do this today. And put your shoes back on, or if they've taken off at all, and walk yourself back home. That is a win, because you made a move in the right direction. And even if you never made it out the door, but you tried, it's a win. So there is only now. Don't let your big goals, ambitions, and objectives for yourself, or your savoring of a psychological challenge or a physical challenge, get in the way of the very simple feeling of moving your body right now. That is all there is. How does it feel to do these movements right now? No, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Am I getting stronger? Am I more skilled? Can I hold this handstand? Is my stomach flat? None of it counts. Really, at the end of the day, all there is how does this feel for me to do now? Am I harming or helping myself? And so that really is all I wanted to say. And I said it at length and I buried the lead. But I hope it was a useful thing to hear for someone today. Take care. Bye-bye.